Welcome to the DevReady podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're interviewing Stewart Bird. Stewart is from Aurecon Group, where he is the digital futures leader. Stewart heads up a division of Aurecon that is changing the way they think about technology within their business and the impact it may have into the future. We've been working with Stewart for a number of years now and had a really close relationship with him and Aurecon Group. And we wanted to look into what a corporate business is doing to innovate, to change the way they do business, to look at opportunities with technology. You'll get some great insights in terms of what a business like Aurecon is doing at a large scale and what they're doing to deliver technology even within projects and across their organisation. Enjoy the podcast.
We've known Stuart for probably 5-6 years now, Stuart. I think that's about right.
Yeah.
Been working a little bit with him and his team along the journey. Stuart runs up the digital futures team and basically explores opportunities within Aurecon and how they can transition their business from what they do now to more of a tech-based influenced business where they're actually offering different services and different models through their business. So, Stuart, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Good to be here. No problem. Good to see the studio, the meeting room turned into a full podcast studio.
Yes.
It's great. A little bit about myself. So, I've been working for Aurecon for about 4 years now. Prior to that, worked for a very similar engineering consulting firm. My background isn't in engineering, really. It's I studied banking and finance originally, as well as Chinese. So I've sort of departed from that sort of space.
Didn't know that.
It's a real deviation there.
But I worked for a similar company to Aurecon years back, and I worked as part of them for whilst I was doing university, and just part time, just office services type work. But I just really enjoyed the type of environment, the type of projects that these sort of companies work on. You're seeing these skylines in cities change, you're seeing these amazing projects sort of come to life, and I just wanted to be part of that. So sort of moved away from the finance space. I always thought I was going to go into banking or something like that, but moved away from that and sort of found myself working with the digital team. So Andrew Marr, our current Chief Digital Officer, worked with him for a long time in the sort of the digital and the innovation space. And that was always fantastic because I thought, I had a real opportunity to have an influence over a large organisation and the way it was going. Some of the things that we developed along the way really sort of took off and scaled across the organisation. And just seeing that was really exciting. So found myself in that space and I thought, this is where I need to stay.
Yeah, nice. It's a place you can make a bit of an impact, clearly, especially when you're sitting in a corporate that's looking to do things differently, which is where a lot of them are, but are they really delivering upon that? And we'll dive in a little bit on that and some what your learning has been through that journey. So from moving to Aurecon and the Digital Futures team, that was pretty much set up when you moved there, correct?
The Digital Futures team didn't exist. Basically when we joined, it was about 4 years ago now. When we got there was no dedicated digital team. There was a little bit of activity happening in pockets around the organisation, but there was no sort of dedicated leadership around digital transformation, software development, what have you. So I was brought in to actually kickstart and develop start the Digital Futures team. And so the team's really focused on more of the innovation side for the digital team. Okay. So we work very closely around the McKinsey 3 Horizons model. Horizon 1 being the here and now, Horizon 2 being a little bit further out, Horizon 3 being that full transformational piece. We work primarily around Horizon 1 and 2, 2 and 3.
2 and 3, is that focus? Okay.
Yeah, so not the day-to-day stuff, it's about how do we actually transform the business through digital technologies, digital ways of working, new digital business models.
Oh, very, very good. How big's the team now? So you obviously started just pretty small, but the team's grown.
Yeah. So started with basically just myself, but now we're up to 6 people.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And we've seen from the outset, from the outside looking in, Aurecon investing heavily in different businesses and bringing in technology-based businesses. One in the 3D sort of animation space. What's the driver behind that?
So we really see that the way of I guess, a traditional engineering consulting firm is changing pretty rapidly. A lot of the work that is traditionally done by these types of firms is, sort of relatively becoming commoditized, and happening sort of quite rapidly.
Yes.
So we're always having to rethink the types of service offerings that we're developing. What are the things that our clients are starting to value more highly than some of the traditional work that we might have done in the past? And so acquiring these sort of companies, bringing in these new capabilities, growing these new service lines is all part of making sure that we're sticking with what customers value. We're not just being complacent and just doing what we've always done and thinking that's going to always fly. That's always going to fly. It's always going to be fetching us a nice profit. The reality is it isn't. So we need to constantly be injecting new thinking, new capabilities, new skills into the firm.
Yeah,
so part of my team's role is to identify what those things might be, start to lay the foundations for those through experimentation, through R&D activities, and hopefully we can actually provide a nice sort of home if we look to actually acquire an external sort of tech-based company, because we've already laid those sort of foundations.
So when you started the Digital Futures, was that initiative supported by the company, or was it more Andrew Marr doing an experiment to see if it works, then the company will get behind it and push that through, and now it's moved towards that with the company backing?
Well, I mean, Andrew, being the Chief Digital Officer, is obviously right up there in the leadership. We also had our previous CEO, Guillaume Swiggers. He was the ex-CEO of Deloitte Asia Pacific. And under his...
Deloitte made a big impact into digital, so the digital component.
Yeah, so Deloitte Digital came about whilst he was at the reins there.
Okay.
So we always had very, very senior leadership buy-in for this.
Okay.
And I think that is critical. If we were to try to kickstart something like Digital Futures and try to undertake the activities that we do without very, very senior leadership and total buy-in, it would make it very, very difficult.
It's impossible, really, if it doesn't come top down. If that's not directional in a business, you're basically working your own little silo.
And you can't push up.
Money here and there. It's a challenge. You can push up, but it's hard work. That you would know in previous roles and positions. It's not easy to push up.
Especially with the experimentation nature of the type of work and not guaranteeing results.
Correct.
Let's see if something works rather than we know this is the ROI, so no problem doing it.
Yeah. I mean, one good thing that we've been able to achieve as our team and having that conduit, being the conduit into that high level leadership, is it is an opportunity for other people around the organisation to actually sort of go after a particular idea and actually get these ideas potentially percolating to the very top of the organisation.
So when you, from an idea perspective, we all have ideas and we all have ideas to improve things. What's Aurecon's position on how you actually drive an idea through the business? Is there a process that you run through? Is it ad hoc? What is it? How is the Digital Futures team driving that through?
A few years ago, that was probably one of the first questions that we asked when we came into the organisation. We were thinking, all right, how do people go after the ideas that they come up with? How do they get the resources and the funding and the backing to be able to do that? And there was no real sort of set process. Okay. So one of the first activities that we actually undertook was to develop a platform which was called Greenhouse, previously called Greenhouse, and is now called Propeller. And it's essentially an internal Kickstarter, if you like. So open to anyone within the organisation. People can put up ideas, as they come about. It's open ideation. But we also set challenges as well, so they're more strategically aligned. We say that the organisation is facing this challenge, what are we going to do about it? And we put that out to the organisation and invite ideas back for that.
So tapping into the collective mind of the organisation rather than a few to actually add value.
It's not just a general free-for-all of ideas around anything, at least aligned to a vision that the company's moving forward with.
And we don't want to discount that, because we do want it to be open, because you never know where a good idea is going to come from. And we don't want to be dictating just the focus areas that we think are important, that others might come from all sorts of different areas. So we do still have that open ideation, But what the platform really does is to provide a little bit of rigor around how these ideas are captured, how they're made visible around the organisation. How do we stop duplication of ideas? We used to find that there was plenty of people doing very, very similar things. This provides us a means to actually join those things up.
We'll jump into that. So, doing similar things. Now, you're a business that's in over 30 countries across the globe. I think we had this discussion previously around you might have a team in South Africa and a team in Australia or New Zealand doing the exact same development, investing in their ideas. So have you seen, as a result of doing this, that change and that shift, or is that still occurring in the business?
Now, we've definitely seen a change in that. Just having that first port of call for people to go and see what has been done in a particular space before just diving in has helped join up conversations that never would have previously happened.
So it's becoming cross-collaborative across all the different offices now?
Yeah,
That's huge value.
And it's allowed us to identify particular trends or areas of interest and more actively join those things up into a larger initiative. So, for example, before we started, we saw that there were about 30 different inspection apps that were being used around the organisation for different purposes. A lot of those things had been being paid for either to a third-party vendor or were being developed as sort of lightweight solutions in-house. All of that is dispersed, funding and resourcing going to all these different things, which actually are trying to achieve the same thing.
Yeah, trying to achieve the same outcome just in different ways and spending money in all different places. So, consolidating that, obviously, if that's allowed you to do, that's made probably a big impact in terms of spending. And you can focus your money in different areas as well. So, that's a big win.
Having that visibility across the countries and the teams, have you seen a different sort of skill set that each sort of team or country is tailored towards? And now you can sort of give them specific work that is towards that skill set? Or is it more common across everyone?
No, there's definitely differences between the regions. You do have pockets of excellence in different parts of the world, but you also see cultural differences amongst the different countries. You see different risk appetites and different.
That's interesting.
Different sort of appetites to embrace innovation. We tend to.
Who would be the most risky out of everyone? And
we've definitely found that places like South Africa and even New Zealand, there are pockets of organisations there that are happy to just give things a go. And it's they're happy to be one of the first. Happy to be the first after maybe.
Just happy to try something, right?
Whereas other parts of the world, think places like Asia and even here in Australia, much more risk adverse. People want to have seen it done, multiple times and have been totally successful before taking any sort of leap into it. So you definitely see that.
So there's obviously some clear advantages if you can plug something in New Zealand or South Africa to do some testing and some trialing. Get some proof of concepts out there, and
that's right.
That makes sense.
Sets up an R&D zone effectively for the business.
That sort of reverse innovation type concepts where doing things in some parts of the world and bringing them back into others.
So that change between the businesses, does that make it hard to drive that digital transformation push through the business then?
Yeah, because you are dealing with a whole range of different maturity levels as well. There's and of course the markets are different as well. So clients end up dictating what we really can and can't do in certain parts of the world. And in certain countries that clients, our clients are predominantly government and the processes of procurement are going to be far more rigorous. Other parts of the world we have more private clients that can be a bit more flexible with their procurement processes, which allows us to actually embed some of these things onto projects. So there are differences like that, and some of these things are within our control, some of them not so much.
So some of just diving into a little bit on that. So when you're looking at change and different things in a corporate environment, what are some of the biggest challenges you had? You clearly alluded to one there. We've got different customers, different people that you're servicing. You got different countries, different mindsets, different thinking. What would you say like the biggest challenges are, and how you position yourself to get through those challenges, and what are some of the wins and some of the learnings that you had across the journey?
Yeah. To be honest, I think Aurecon in general is quite, they're good with the adoption of new technologies and new ways of working. I think in general, everyone is open to doing something new and different. Okay. I think where the major sort of challenges come up for us is when we're trying to instill sort of big, significant change. So to create an application and for a team to adopt it onto a project might not necessarily be that hard. I think we've established enough of a kind of a track record of these things that people are open to doing it. But it's more about changing fundamental business processes that challenge the current business model.
Interesting.
That's when things start to get very
So everyone's happy to play a little bit, maybe add a bit of value to a certain process or the way you do things now.
Yeah.
It's when you sort of question, all right, is the way we're doing things now how they need to be in the next 3 to 5 years? That's probably where you have a bit of challenge, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think when you can develop something that shows gains in efficiency or productivity, that's no problem, because that's an easy thing for people to wrap their head around.
It's an easy sell too, right?
Because you're a fee for service by the hour business, so they can say they can do something quicker but still provide the same value.
Yeah. So, but when it's around generating new revenue or tapping into new profit pools or delivering a service in a different way. So, traditionally consulting firms, just in general, and Aurecon's no different. We sell by the hour, really. We price up projects based on the amount of human effort that is going to go into it. In a digital context, that type of business model no longer works very well. We are continuously automating and digitizing a lot of the types of tasks that we would normally do manually in a traditional context. So rather than for us to just say, well, something that took us a week to do now takes us an hour, we're just going to charge that hour. There's a whole lot of R&D effort and investment that's gone into that automation.
It's value-based rather than time-based.
Eventually, it's also more difficult to charge per value too.
Well, it's the same for us as well.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
We estimate by an hour on a project.
Yes.
But the outcome is what the value is in.
No, it's not.
Whether we can do it in a week or 6 weeks, that's our problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of the time, our systems are not necessarily set up effectively to ensure that we are calculating the effort that's gone into what it took. The R&D effort, the innovation effort. What it took to get to that point.
So valuing the IP, all the effort that's gone through, the years of learning, because you can't get to that position and make an impact of 1 week of work to 1 hour without years of research, understanding, investigation, and investing to tech to actually improve that.
So it's difficult to then gauge value on experience.
Yes,
or
exactly.
an outcome.
Yeah.
It's what's it worth to the customer, not how much effort has it taken you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
so digital sort of changing the game in that sense.
It is.
And that's when the conversations get quite difficult. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So tying into that, so clearly we're all in a world where things are evolving, things are changing. The way we do business is changing, and it's going to continue to change and more rapidly. That's why companies like yourself are looking at how you can use digital, and what you can do to impact your business and your business model. But in the end, it's all about adding value to that customer, understanding what they need, what they want, what they're looking for, not just now, what it's going to be like in 3, 5, 10 years' time. Yeah. How do you invest your time in that area? So digging in realistic customers, getting to know them. What do you do around that customer focus?
Yeah, so we do a few different things. One is that we periodically do go out and systematically speak with our clients and survey them. Yep. So we've just gone about that sort of process recently in a program called Our Digital Futures. Okay. Where we've gone out, we've surveyed 100 plus clients. We've done more in-depth interviews with a good chunk of those as well. And we've also gone out and spoken to a whole range of futurists as well.
Interesting.
To get their perspective on where
Yeah.
things might be going
Okay.
and seeing how that
Yeah.
differs from what
Yeah.
our clients are saying to us.
Have you seen a polar opposites in some cases, or is it aligned with the futurists to the clients?
Well, there's definitely a gap between some
Okay.
of these perspectives. Some clients are very
Yeah.
very onto it, and some clients understand where things need to go, but they've got their own internal challenges as
Okay.
well. Obviously,
Is there a gap just between the futurists themselves?
yes,
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, 'cause it's very
It's a lot known.
opinionated.
Yes.
Especially if you're thinking 10, 15, 20 years in the future, not just the next 5.
Yeah, are we going to end
Even
up
the
in
next
a world
5
where
is-
everything's automated, our homes are built automatically?
Yeah, we'll get there at some point, but
computers
who knows
engineering
when.
everything we do.
I think you tend to see the larger themes still
Yeah.
come out there. So you might have people who have a particular background or interest in an area or discipline, and then that
Okay.
kind of starts to shine through a little bit more in their visions of the future.
Get it.
But
So they're like an environmentalist, and it's more about the environment
Yes.
and green
Yeah.
recycling, that sort
Yeah.
of stuff potentially.
But
If they're a
you
tech
might get
person,
very-
it's
exactly.
automated. Everything's automated.
Everything's
Sensors
automated.
everywhere, AI everywhere.
Yeah, IT and everything.
90% of people won't have jobs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But the themes are still, the overarching themes are the same.
Yes. Okay.
It's it comes down to the fact that the pace of change is
Yeah.
ever increasing.
Yes.
Where the complexity that in a business environment is definitely on the increase.
Yes.
Confidence amongst business leaders is relatively low in that context because
Okay.
we're going through this shift where we've just talked about business model change. There is huge changes happening to the traditional business models in pretty much every industry. Incumbents are very unsure about
How
which
steady
direction,
their ship is, basically.
exactly,
Yeah.
which direction they should be steering their ship. We're seeing themes around the need for continuous learning because saying like expertise and intellectual property and knowledge is being digitized at such a rapid rate that the half-life of skills and knowledge is constantly decreasing. So that what you learned at university is becoming far more quickly outdated.
I think from tech guys being in university, it was outdated when we were there,
Exactly.
let alone when we came out.
First lecture of the first year was outdated.
Yeah, the whole thing was
I did a
outdated.
games course, and it was 2003. I think I started uni.
Yeah, about that, wasn't
And
it?
it was, so the first lecture was talking about the Nintendo 64, which came out in 1996.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not the new version of graphics on the PlayStation
Yeah.
2 and
Yeah.
almost the 3 and things like that. So,
Yeah.
in that space, we've seen, the updating happens day to day.
Exactly.
They are getting better, but they're still behind.
Yeah, it's
Because
another-
tech moves so fast, and,
Yeah,
it's,
and
like
they
in that
can't
environment, it's hard for
just
them to-
pick
yeah.
something. They need to try and teach a way of why we're going to teach this and have
Yes.
their background associated to it. They have to go through their
Yeah.
checks and balances to make sure it's worth teaching. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, it's 10 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So I think the major focus there is to make sure that for companies that they provide the means of ongoing learning, continuous learning for their staff, and that really requires thinking about automating tasks and actually freeing up people's time. If you're still putting people onto the same tasks, same projects
Yep.
to replicate what they've done
Over and
on
over again.
previous ones,
Yeah.
then how are you actually freeing people up to learn the new skills that they need to be constantly competitive?
That's what you said. There's a real big cultural shift within a business. Like businesses have been made to basically create a process, repeat the process, deliver the outcome. But from a learning perspective, it's all about ripping apart those processes and looking at, all right, what can we improve? What can we automate? How can we think differently? How can we add more value in our process to our customers?
Yep.
So it's always evolving and changing, but not everyone's up to that speed.
Yep.
We all can look at from what a futurist thinks, what a company thinks. So I think I was reading something around 8% of companies believe that their current business model will actually be viable given the change that we're going through.
Yep.
So that's little to nobody really.
Yep, exactly.
But how many actually are investing in that constant learning, continuous learning? Because that's only where the results are going to come from, right?
Yeah.
Capturing that information. That's probably another big thing that businesses probably don't do that well.
Mm-hmm.
How do you enforce sort of capture and structure of information and learnings within Aurecon and the business through projects, through customer interactions and everything that you do.
So I think that there's obviously still work to be done for every organisation on this, but these sort of systematic means of going out to market are obviously quite valuable, because it isn't just about an ad hoc conversation that I've had with my particular client. We've gone out, we've done something in a more rigorous, structured, systematic fashion, and we've been able to extract thematic insights from that. But it's not just us that do that. We have a dedicated client team across the organisation. We have client managers, client directors, who are responsible for building up those relationships with our particular key clients. They are constantly having these conversations, constantly recording their findings. Periodically, they are doing similar things to what we have done, which is go out and do those systematic surveys, and that is captured in systems that things like our project experience database and things like that. We're trying to build on those processes as well. We're looking at how we use technology to better analyse the type of things that clients are requiring from their projects. So looking at their requests for tenders and their expressions of interest, things that they put out to market, and identifying where they're looking for particular capabilities or technologies, or highlighting certain standards that they want consultants like us to meet, and to actually aggregate those insights and actually see how those are changing over time.
Because they would be, if you're gathering all that data, you'll see that, all right, clients are shifting mindsets that they need to be delivering this, and that gives us an opportunity, right? So solve the problem, deliver an opportunity.
Unless you identify which clients are doing that as well, not just seeing that, and you'll know which clients are sort of work towards the way you want to work, potentially as well, and then which ones you have to put more effort into educate to move towards that as well.
And all part of the transformation piece is to articulate the need for upskilling, generating new capability, using new tools. That if the client says it, that's when people really listen up. So to be able to very explicitly show that clients are asking for new things as well, and that is constantly changing over time. We need to constantly change how we deliver our services. It's those are powerful insights.
In terms of that, so you've obviously developed a lot of software and technology within Aurecon. Now, how is that impacting your customers? Like, what does that do to your projects? I know you've actually developed projects and products that are really hands-on from the field force perspective. What has the change been? Obviously, from a project perspective, what the customers expect from Aurecon. What is that doing for the business?
So I think overall, the use of some of these more advanced technologies and advanced capabilities is really heightened. The perception of Aurecon's brand in the market amongst our clients as well. They see us as people to come to discuss something that is sort of out of the ordinary. We're getting a lot of clients see some of the work that we're doing in the machine learning AI type space, and saying, can you come and actually have a look at this project? Maybe there is some way that we can tackle this where traditional means just haven't.
So you're actually advising or guiding a customer through even their digital transformation potentially right now.
We've done a lot of proof of concepts projects with clients, just to show that these new means actually can deliver the results that you're after. A lot of these things end up having to go to the open market, procurement practices, but we have helped actually guide that client's thinking about how to formulate these projects, because that's been a challenge. They're also very used to formulating particular types of projects and then putting that out to market as a tender. But if you're not exactly sure what approach you're going to take, how do you write that?
It's like
So if that's one sort of way that we've been able to.
It's a different type of value add, right? in terms of from a customer's perspective, they're obviously coming to you from engineering consulting, but then looking in at what you're doing with technology, they're probably seeing you in a very different light, right? Yeah. In terms of the business and business model.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the major things as well with the technology that we've developed is it's not a transactional relationship necessarily with the client anymore.
And it can't be anymore, right? Exactly. No one wants a transactional relationship. They want someone that's going to be there, support them, grow with them, partner on the journey, because everyone is on a journey, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no longer is it respond to a tender, deliver a project, shake hands, and
off you go.
That's the end, and then we basically have to win back that client each time.
Yep.
You know, now we're definitely seeing a trend that clients want to become more prosumers rather than consumers. You know, they want to be able to have the tools to enable their business ongoing. So they don't want just advice at one point in time, because as we're saying, things move so quickly that you know, you get that advice at one point in time and it's obsolete quite quickly. But digital technologies allow us to actually continue to have a continuous engagement with that client and actually provide them the tools, mechanisms, functionality, whatever it might be, insights for them to continuously make decisions or continuously undertake tasks. Whereas before, that model wasn't necessarily available to us.
So if you didn't have sort of like those wins on the board and that experimentation mindset, will those customers be doing any of this stuff on their own? Or it's only because they've seen it proved by Aurecon that they're willing to then engage with you? They've got a less appetite for risk. I
think some of the clients would potentially be looking for these things themselves. Hopefully the fact that we've we're out there talking about some of the things that we've done have helped spark new ideas in clients, and potentially maybe got them to consider it earlier than they might have. So they're extracting a bit more value by doing it a little bit earlier than they would have. But I think definitely at this point I'm seeing a strong uptick in clients' appetite for trying new things and deploying new types of technologies. Even just a couple of years ago, a lot of clients say we're just not ready for that. It's great, really interesting, but we just can't really take it on at the moment. And I think that's definitely changing. Clients are becoming far more savvy about the value that some emerging technologies can offer them, and they're actively going out, attending conferences, talking to different vendors, talking to different consultants to figure out what the best approach to these things are. So great that we can be in amongst that and potentially be somewhat at the forefront of that. But definitely clients are picking this stuff up.
So without being vocal and telling people about your failures and your wins and what you're learning, then that wouldn't affect the industry as much. Whereas by being vocal and telling everyone about how you do things and have the demos and client nights and conferences, then that gets it out in the industry and it starts to shift the competitors as well as the customers. So you're making a change outside of Aurecon, not just within Aurecon.
Yeah, I think we actually have been approached by a lot of external people just wanting to understand what we've done at Aurecon. They've seen
That's why you're on the podcast, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so they've seen the digital transformation from the outside, and they've seen there's something special going on here. We just want to sneak peek. We want to have a look in what's happening, how have you structured it, where how have you overcome some of the challenges that they're potentially going through at that point. So it's definitely it is a pretty interesting story, and people are sort of picking it up from the outside and wanting to know more, which is it's good to see.
Is that like competitors as well, or just other people in the industry?
I'm sure competitors are interested, but we haven't had any necessarily direct approaches with those competitors. But mostly clients and potential partners as well. People thinking there might be something here where we can partner with Aurecon because of the types of work that we're undertaking.
Your secret sauce is still yours
at this stage. So just digging in a little bit more. You talk about learning mindset and how you actually capture that within the organisation. We've worked with a lot of corporates, and obviously, I don't know if everyone's aware, we work quite a bit with Aurecon in helping them with some of the technology they're building. That's why we know Stewart. We've known him for a long time doing that. Now, along the journey, we've looked at like agile approaches in corporate. Some corporates are pushing agile as a way of thinking within their organisations. Now, we've worked in collaboration with you in some agile frameworks, some in not so agile.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the challenges in pushing agile? Because clearly there's benefits, but
Mm-hmm.
there's also challenges around like how much budget are we spending on this thing?
Yeah.
How do we actually fund this?
Yeah.
That's generally what it comes down to, and some of the biggest problems we see in corporate moving to agile.
Yeah.
We'd just like to hear a bit about your experience within Aurecon.
Yeah, I think one thing that's always tricky is, I guess, it's the project nature of an organisation like Aurecon, where basically, funding is set up to fund particular projects for a particular time period. It's that continuous, ongoing funding mechanisms are not necessarily that strong there, or that mindset of having continuous.
So living
funding
project
support.
to project funding rather than holistically.
Yeah. So what we tend to find is that come end of financial year, budgets are reset, and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. Hopefully, you get the same amount as before, and you can continue the projects you have. But sometimes budgets do get redistributed, and that's sort of hinders our ability to do these multi-year projects. Because this isn't a sort of a set and forget, deliver and then it's going to run perfectly forever.
Especially
obviously,
software related.
Exactly. Obviously, software is just constantly ongoing. You have to constantly upkeep it, constantly update it. So you have to have the right funding and support mechanisms in place for that. And in the past, it's been a bit of a challenge. Having certain initiative funding, but then not being able to transition into a continuous
ongoing
support and funding model has meant that we've had to hit pause on projects before. We've had to go and seek funding from other teams around the organisation that want a particular functionality. That takes time, and those conversations can tend to drag out. So there's always that uncertainty, which just makes life difficult.
That's the challenge of corporate. Everyone's got their own responsibilities, their own roles, their own objectives, and then if you're going to Team X, might be operations, their objective is to get the job done, not invest in the future. You're going to marketing maybe, and their objective is to sell the vision of the business, so maybe you might get some funding on if it's really customer centric and going to engage customers. So with the working in silo environment in corporate, the bigger you get, obviously the more challenging it gets to become more agile. So how do you see that moving forward and progressing over the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think there might be a shift in mindset around the way a corporate entity operates? Do you think that needs to happen to really get to a frame of reference where you are learning, you are evolving, you are as agile as you can be with such a big environment and a big team?
Basically, up until now, we've been developing these things to get to a point where they are scaled across the organisation, being used on a huge number of projects by a huge number of people to really establish that track record and articulate the value of our digital tools. And I think that's certainly hit home, and that's organisations like Aurecon are saying, we do need dedicated resources for this. We need to scale up our ability to create and maintain these tools, and to work with companies like your guys on an ongoing basis. Many organisations, like ours, in years past wouldn't have had pretty much any software developers. Might have had a few with a few skills sort of dotted around the place, but there was no centralised team of developers or even sort of business analysts who could work with external developers. So it is more of a learning curve, and part of that is to really have to articulate the value that these tools bring to show that it is worth investing on an ongoing basis into this. And I think that's always going to take time, because that involves significant business systems changes. But we've sort of been chipping away at that over time, and we've always had the buy-in from leadership within Aurecon, which has always made things easier.
It's obviously going to make it easier, right?
Another challenge in that would be the a shift in mindset to have support staff that are supporting those applications. If they're being used across the entire organization, and the more tools you have, you need the support staff to help your staff. You're not actually generating any income for the business at all.
Yes.
They're just there to help everyone else.
Some
And then
additional
that's a big
admin
shift
costs.
in that again.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, all of this is interconnected. As we were saying before, where traditionally you sell people's hours, so having utilization targets is always a key metric in consulting firms. So then, yes, when you do have people who are support staff for tools, that's potentially seen as an overhead.
It's a different number now you're looking at, right?
Yeah. So all of these business systems are intertwined
Yep.
in these complex organisational structures. So to try to influence change in one part means actually thinking about the flow-on effects in all these others. So that's where a lot of our focus actually goes.
Okay.
Is the application itself or the technology itself is the interface essentially for us to actually start to influence
Change.
Change at a fundamental business model, business process level.
Yeah. It doesn't only affect the people using it, it affects the people supporting them, who they interact with, how they interact with the business itself, the clients, everything.
So getting back to that, would you say the biggest challenge in a corporate environment is more the structure, not just investing in technology? If it was like unleash the power and the IP of the organisation and just open up the silos, you'd probably have to move a hell of a lot faster. But we live in a world where you've got shareholders to answer to, you've got stakeholders to answer to, and we're in a country that's very risk adverse, like you said. It's not something that we're known to do. We're happy with the way things are, and if they're working, we're comfortable, and it's difficult to change. So
most definitely. Yeah. I think that's the reality for most incumbent organisations is shifting to this digital business model that operates totally differently. So I think that is the major challenge. So I mean, over the years in roles like this, I've seen countless amazing solutions pop up. These brilliant ideas that have taken shape into software in some way, shape or form, and eventually just fizzled. And it's because they're built on a organisational platform that isn't set up to let them thrive.
Change and shift.
Exactly. Even from our perspective, we've been involved in projects delivered to corporates where there's this great solution that helps solve the problem of maybe one component of the business. But then the realisation is we're going to impact operations, we're going to impact finance, we're going to impact this, that, and then getting through that journey, generally roadblocks.
It's not at the start.
The awareness around that's really important. So it's key to understand who you're impacting when you're trying to deliver a solution. Getting the buy-in from all those stakeholders. Otherwise, you're really going nowhere fast, and you're going to hit a roadblock.
I think we're lucky at Aurecon to have a team like the Digital Futures team and some of the other parts of the digital. Global digital team, because we are freed up to be able to help unpack these things and basically to dedicate time and effort into impacting some real change. And obviously, as I said before, leadership buy-in critical. So we've definitely got that. But I think if you don't have that, you've got people who are innovating as a side part of their,
it's a side thing, it's not their day job, right?
Correct. Pushing the vision of the business with it, they're just doing it themselves.
Exactly. And when the current business systems and the business model keep throwing up roadblocks, the inevitable result is that, well, this isn't actually my core role. This is just becoming too hard. I'm just going to drop it. Even though there could be huge potential there. So I think it is fundamental that businesses think about fundamental business model transformation at the same time, not just product or service innovation.
And just that conversation there is why we're seeing so much startup and disruption happening to these big corporates. Because people in those businesses and in those environments understand what's going on, and they realise that it's that difficult to get something through and change through. I might go and start this idea up in my own accord, get some general funding, and actually impact just one portion of what you're doing or what your competitors are doing or any industry, right? And that's why we're seeing such disruption, because in the end, all the processes that you deliver, especially when you get to a corporate level, you can make one little change, and if you've got 7,000, 8,000 employees, adding an hour of time saving across that a week is massive money, and you can establish a whole business just around that. So I think corporates need to be aware that this is why disruption is happening, probably because you're not engaging your people or getting a buy-in across your organisation around digital and what that actually means, and the limit that you have and the speed and trajectory that you're going at can actually hinder you long term. So when you think about that within your organisation, it's something that Aurecon's done well. You've brought some people together that your objective is to get stakeholder buy-in, to drive that thinking through the business. You've also got an innovation team as well.
Yep.
From what I know, it's about 40, the I-40 I think it's called.
Yep.
They go out and work with clients. So there's clearly a lot of investment going on in this area, which is why you're actually starting to see some traction.
Yeah.
All right. So after all that, we probably want to dive in, Stu, around some actual examples of what you've done and what sort of impact and learnings you've had. We've worked obviously with you on the Propeller project and a little bit around Field Force. One that's probably impacted direct clients is Field Force. So I'd love to learn a bit more about that project, what it's done within the business itself, how it's impacted projects and even clients.
And even the challenges you had in trying to get that pushed through the business, and then what the reasoning was to make your own version of something that the business already has 30 different tools being used.
Originally started as a spin-off South Africa. We discussed a bit earlier. Started their own thing, right? And that was what, 4 or 5 years ago. About that.
So going back about 4 or 5 years, we initially did a survey of how many different tools were being used out to collect data in the field on construction sites and whatnot. And we came back, I think we stopped the survey at around 30-ish.
So there
stopped. Yeah, exactly. That's where we stopped.
So 50.
Exactly right. We thought, that's enough evidence to show that there's some opportunity here to consolidate.
Okay.
But so basically we went through what was being used. The vast majority were obviously third-party software platforms, but there was one that was born out of South Africa that had been developed for a number of projects over there, and that was Field Force. So we thought, we're actually going to start to invest in our own IP. We're not going to just select a third-party software platform and pay license fees. We did obviously explore that opportunity, but it was pretty significant if we wanted to open it up to the whole organisation.
Was it a dollar decision that made that? Or was it more of putting our IP into this product? What was the decision that really tied it together? There's probably a bit to it.
Yeah. So there's definitely a few aspects that we considered, and it wasn't just a dollar figure. Obviously, that it has to come down and make financial, economic sense. But that wasn't the be all end all. So we did talk to a number of external vendors, and we looked at what type of cost we'd be looking at to open this up to all of our staff, not just have specific licenses for specific
that's
things.
Across the whole entire business.
So
you're curious, sitting around 8,000, 9,000 staff.
So we're about 7,000.
So that's big numbers.
And these things are like $40-50 a head.
So we weren't gonna give everyone a license. We didn't need to necessarily give everyone a license, but we wanted an open basically an open tool. We didn't want to start restricting people to having to ask for license permission to log into these things. It's not a good user experience. It's not what people are used to when they're using applications on their own phones.
I remember people used to, when we were dealing with some graphic designers, they used to share their license of Microsoft, because they were all Mac guys. And one, you could only open a document. That's only in a group of 10 guys, right? Imagine doing
You shut down an office, you shut down Word so I can open it up.
It's hilarious.
We definitely didn't want that. So basically that was, we did get quotes, and they were pretty astronomical, to be honest. And we thought, if we were to actually use that money and invest it into the platform that was already there, we'd actually be able to get a good outcome. Plus, that would actually improve, basically the processes, capabilities, skills of our internal staff to actually understand how to get these software applications to scale.
Nice.
It would actually help change the mindset of the organisation to say, we can develop software at this type of scale now. It doesn't have to be piecemeal. It doesn't have to be for one-off projects.
So it's transcending the projects now. It's not just about the project delivering that outcome. It's about the whole business and project after project after project, getting that return from it.
Exactly. And so, we thought this is going to give us control over how the direction the product goes in, and we can actually start to try to aggregate the data that's being captured in various different ways and use that for future potential service offerings.
Yeah, nice.
So there's a whole range of different factors, but the main thing that we're looking to do was to open it up to the whole organisation. We wanted to scale it. Where it was at that point in time was that it was being customised.
Yes.
So there was a base platform, but there was heavy customisation for every single project, depending on the project requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the types of the forms of how data was captured had to be customised by a developer. User setup, people's accounts would have to be deployed by a software developer. All these sort of things.
Like that.
It was just built as a tool quickly, I'm guessing, and then just evolved. It wasn't made to support an organisation.
Exactly. It was to help deliver a project in a tight budget, tight time frame. That's where it started. So definitely did the job it needed to do then. It was fantastic, but we thought, we can't develop software like this. We have to be developing it with scale in mind if we're actually going to get the most out of it. So we selected it, and obviously, been working very closely with you guys to get it to the point it is now, where we're actually starting to offer it not just to our internal project teams to be able to use on projects and get some efficiency. We're also working with clients now to understand, what sort of data capture requirements they need for their own operations, what type of data insights they actually require to make decisions for various different stakeholders, and then to be able to deploy Fieldforce for them so that they can actually get going with it. They don't have to come to us and, Fieldforce comes attached to a person, doing the inspection for them. They can do it themselves.
So we're the basic premise of what it started at solving a problem for a project, then said, how do we actually scale this across the business? And now it's actually in the hands of some customers, being used by them. That's pretty amazing, the impact that you're having. And you're not a tech company, are you?
No,
exactly. So that investment in your own OP has opened up a new revenue stream potentially.
Exactly.
Where an off-the-shelf thing would have been nothing to do with that. You'll be like, we use this tool, go sort it out yourself.
What does that do for the brand recognition of Aurecon, that you're actually making an impact in different ways now rather than what you did at business as usual, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah. Well, I think it's definitely it definitely differentiates us from competitors, where whereas the services that others might provide it comes with our people. If you want inspections done, we do it for you. We deliver you a report. And that's sort of where it ends. With us, we can actually provide a more ongoing, dynamic solution for the client. We talked about Prosumer. A move before. So we're seeing that our clients are actually wanting to become prosumers. They want to do it themselves. They just need the tools, the guidance, the right setup. And so the advisory work moves from us doing the inspection and then providing them the report at the end to us being the advisors on how they need to set up this whole process to capture, to set up, to capture, to report on, to extract insights from data that they can do themselves.
So you're being leveraged more for the knowledge and processes that you have rather than just the ability to do a specific task.
That would probably be quite interesting when you have that conversation, obviously internally, around hours you charge for, because if you start charging hours for just that little IP snippet, that's the challenge, So that's a different business model completely. So how do you rethink that? What have you been thinking about to actually roll that through more at a scale perspective?
Yeah, so there's definitely, it's definitely a challenge because it does cannibalise some of the short-term work that we could be winning.
That's basically what Apple did with the releasing the iPhone, killed the iPad.
iPod.
That product is gone.
But that's the thing. So I mean, that sort of work, it's being commoditized at such a rate. There are organisations out there that do manual inspection work dirt
Piece
sheet.
of paper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
piece of
okay.
paper, but
Yeah.
they specialise in it.
Mhm.
They've got a workforce that's
Just
all they
does
do.
that.
So,
Okay.
so there are outsourcing options for people. So as a high end engineering consulting firm, we've got to constantly think, well, if that's being commoditized, we need to be able to somehow let go of things over
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to stop doing certain things. Otherwise, we just start to slip down to tier 2, tier 3, whatever.
Yeah, the value's not in that low-level work.
No,
It's
exactly.
the knowledge and experience and the high-level tasks that you have to be trained and specialised in.
Yeah, but these sort of applications still allow us to be involved in that type of work, but we're just helping, from a more high-end activity, a high value activity.
It's a different level, right? It's pulling out those bits and pieces and tasks that, like I said, are commoditized. So every business out there that's doing those day-to-day things that are generating a lot of revenue, not much margin, these are the things that are going to end up kicking off the pot, really. You don't want to be doing these things. You got to be looking at what your biggest value is in an organisation. I think you're doing that quite well, and it's all about the knowledge, educating the customer on what needs to be done, and consulting in on that. That's where the real value is.
Yeah. And so I think particularly in this context, it is inevitable that these things will be automated. Once, totally in future.
In what way do you perceive that to be? So inspections or?
Yeah. So we've got invested
Yes.
in a new data and analytics team, which was born out of the digital futures team. We had a part of it called digital insights. So it's all around machine learning, more advanced data analytics approaches, and some of the bulk of the work that we've actually been doing is probably around using computer vision for automating visual inspection activities.
Yeah, nice.
So you set up enough sensors everywhere, then you don't need someone.
If you've got imagery, you've got video, that stuff can be analysed.
Yeah, get it.
So
And
we've
the
done
same
things.
sort of apply then to the higher level work for you guys as well, to the engineering and design. Because if you throw enough AI at something and train it well enough, it can design what a person can design.
Well, we're seeing
differently as well, not just the way we've been trained to do things.
We're seeing it happen, definitely. There are platforms out there that essentially automate the site selection process for infrastructure. So looks at all the parameters that you need to consider.
Takes in all
when
the data,
when building it. Exactly. Like proximity to the grid, weather conditions, whatever, like footfall, traffic flows, whatever, and actually starts to automate the site selection process, planning overlays, whatnot.
And what sort of work would be required in that for a team like yours? Is it a lot of effort to deliver that?
To develop something like that?
Not develop from a top.
To deliver that as a solution.
Actually, as a person delivering that, or as people, stakeholders.
Traditionally. So definitely there would be significant effort going into doing something like that. The same goes for like configuration of infrastructure as well. So you've got buildings, you've got a certain footprint, you've got certain requirements for a building. There's applications already available that will automate that process.
Nice.
It will give you thousands of options of layouts, and it will start to help you whittle it down based on your requirements.
What's going to fit the requirements, right? Yeah, get it.
So these sort of things are, it's some of the bread and butter for engineering organisations, and it's starting to be automated. So we need to figure out clever ways of still adding value to those processes.
Yes.
Whether it be we do it ourselves, or we just have to shift to higher end work.
Is that a space where sort of a traditional engineering firm would think an AI couldn't do that and it needed a human touch?
I think a couple of years back, a lot of people would be thinking, no,
not going to happen.
AI is not going to be able to do some of the things that it does, as standard now. I think one project that we've done for City of Cape Town is measuring all their road assets across the whole city, and in the past that's a very manual process where someone's going out with a trundle wheel and taking point measurements along every street in the city.
Counting clicks.
Really, it is. But now using aerial imagery, that's we've developed a model that can do that on an ongoing basis.
Yep. It's
it
continuous
doesn't have to
update.
be, exactly, continuous update. It doesn't have to be a a massive undertaking once every 3 years or something like that. So the whole dynamic of this sort of stuff is changing based on new approaches that are probably they're well founded in research and academia, and computer vision is not a new thing, but it is becoming so commoditized and so accessible to every business now that it is really starting to make an impact on the tools and processes that have traditionally been used.
And that's what's shaking up the business models, because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know. We have a rough indication of where we might be. But in 10, 20 years' time, like if you stood back 10 years, 20 years previous to now, so in the 90s, we wouldn't know where we were going to be. We can make an assumption, a guess. We can guess that we're all going to be fully automated and there's no jobs for anybody, but is that the case? What is it that's going to be happening? We don't really know.
How many people thought we were going to die in the year 2000?
They
couldn't even see beyond that.
They thought computers are going to blow up, planes are going to fall out of the sky.
Exactly.
We don't,
it's hard to predict 2-3 years.
Yeah, and I think
you don't know.
You just have to be in it. You've got to be active.
Yes.
You've got to be constantly learning by doing.
Yes.
And I think the risk is organisations wait and see. You
can't
wait and see.
There is no you've seen that you've been past.
There is no point in time where there is an epiphany moment where you go, everything is now crystal clear. We know exactly what we need to invest in now. We know exactly what our business needs to be.
Yes.
That is never going to happen. It is a constant unknowing, and there's constant uncertainty. You have to be in there doing it to actually feel your way through it properly so that you can adapt quickly as these things happen.
Fail fast comes from the best thing you can do is to learn something didn't work as quick as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the challenge in corporate once again. Like, all corporates started at something small at some point in time. And they would have been learning quickly, evolving and shifting. But the world we live in now is that fast moving. 50, 100 years ago, it was a very different world. Developing a process and trying to look at how you can deliver it at scales that are very different to what you're doing now. It's all about tech-based stuff.
I would say just the last 30 years, so from the 90s till now, since computers have become prevalent in the internet, and then what's grown in that time has challenged everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a different age now.
It's not. People thought in the 50s, all right, we'd be flying cars and nuclear reactors as engines in the 90s, but we didn't go that way. It's gone more technology as a tool, not big shiny things and the age that you're in.
It's got software.
So like in the 30s, it was Mars and aliens, because that was the new thing that people were learning about. In the 50s, and it's nuclear technology, so that's a nuclear thing, but I don't think a big thing that's going to happen now because of the space we're in with the technology. It's all about automation and making things easier.
And that's what's going to spin out of that is what else? Because, like, I think a good example of that is like the Concorde was developed between British and the French, and that was all about how fast can we get a plane going. But where's the Concorde now? It's gone. It's all about how do we ship people cheaply, efficiently, and it's not about speed at all. So the things change, different thinking changes. So in 10 years' time, we might be having a very different conversation around where we are and what's actually evolved, because in the end, we're only going to learn and evolve as we go. And people are really important to the way we deliver things. We can't expect to live in a world where everything's automated. What are we going to do and what the value is? I think that personal connection and touch and knowledge and understanding and empathy is a key pivotal thing that we have as people. And that continuously has to be a part of our business and the value that we add. Who wants to work with a business that's all just technology based? That's all just completely automated. There's no one to talk to.
It depends on the theory you subscribe to, because people that think that it will go completely automated and will be a creative society only, that'll be the outlet for everything.
That's
one train of thought is.
One train of thought.
And I think that is,
and that's definitely like universal income and all that. That and gives you time to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. But is that going to be enough to fulfill people?
I don't know.
I think there's definitely we're having conversations internally about the future of our workforce and what types of skills people are going to require. And you definitely do have a train of thought that goes purely towards like the soft skills for people.
You do.
But there is definitely the need for deep technical skills still. And I think that is often harder to speak about because we're not exactly sure what type of skills we need in that sort of technical context. So people sort of tend to go to the soft skills,
yeah.
they can understand.
Yep.
And that's where the conversation gets dominated.
Yep.
But it's what is that mix between highly, deeply technical and soft as well.
It's a balance, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's like I said, we don't really know exactly, but there's some pivotal direction. We are automating, we are evolving, and we are establishing new opportunities and thinking around that too, and new business models and ventures. Yep. Looking to the future. So for Aurecon, we've also had a chat about where things might be going. What are you're investing in? So you're investing in a bit of AI, machine learning, different tools and technology for your clients and people. What's the objective? What's the next 3 to 5 years look like? What's the vision for the business? And is it just continuously investing in technology and how you efficiently improve? Is it exploring other business opportunities, other diversifying the business model? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's a good question and something that I don't think anyone's got a clear picture of. It's obviously there's a whole range of potential scenarios that we could imagine.
Yes.
And we're setting ourselves up for those, to go in whichever direction is viable. But I definitely think that we'll see less and less of the traditional type of engineering work that we might have been used to happening in the past. I mean, things like computational design, parametric design, practices are really, it's automating huge chunks of what engineers might have done in the past. So the definition of what we're doing definitely needs to change. And I think that's really around better understanding why we're building certain things or why we're designing certain things the way we are. I think it used to be that engineering companies would, get a brief from a client that have budget, that have scheduling constraints, that have whatever other constraints that were presented to them, and then they'd find the best solution within those things.
Constraints, yeah.
But I think those constraints need to sort of shift over time. How we understand them, we need to understand what our clients' businesses are actually trying to achieve.
Yes.
First and foremost.
What are their outcomes and deliver upon those rather than just here's a project.
Yeah, and we need to think about the physical infrastructure as a means to an end for a business or an outcome. It isn't the outcome itself.
No.
And that's in the AEC industry, the architecture, engineering, construction industry. That tends to be obviously where we focus because that's the final product most of the time is the physical infrastructure.
Yes.
So we think about it as the be-all, end-all. But it isn't for the client.
No.
They're concerned with how their business is running, whether it's profitable, whether they're doing right in a corporate social responsibility context, those types of things. So we need to better understand.
It's an asset to that business, right?
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not what's delivering outcomes to that business.
Yeah.
It's a way they can get to an outcome, but it's not, like you said, the be-all and end-all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an asset that's helping them
deliver
and capture value, basically.
Yeah, so the train tracks aren't their business, it's the trains that run them and move people around or cargo around or whatever it is.
Yeah. So we need to start to get better at understanding that, understanding our clients' businesses, where they're trying to take their businesses, how these technological advances are actually, and social changes and whatnot are impacting their business models, and then how do the physical assets need to change to actually continue to support what they're trying to achieve.
Okay.
So obviously we're seeing the industries like the energy industry changing rapidly.
Yes.
You're moving from centralized vertical power generating organizations to more distributed energy generation and transfer. What does that mean for our current clients that are maybe were the power generators in the past, the core power generators?
What are they doing? Yeah. How are they evolving, basically?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if everyone can be a power generator with solar panels on the roof and sell back to the grid and trade with one another, what is that business now? And what happens to the physical infrastructure that they've currently got, and how does it have to be repurposed, going forward? So we definitely need to think beyond just the kind of the technology. We need to think about how it's impacting the businesses of our clients, and then what that means for how we design the physical infrastructure that they require for these totally new paradigms that maybe never previously were even envisioned.
So your solutions have to be scalable effectively to meet the changes that need to come through long term and the shifts in their industries.
I think that we need to be thinking forward, not just going, okay, well, you want a building, all right, let's build it.
And clearly you're positioning yourself with a big advantage if you're thinking that way and you're bringing this mindset into an organisation like Aurecon to actually shift the change of businesses that you're working with. Because you're thinking ahead 3-5 years and what there could be and the position they're in. You're able to talk to them in a different conversation. It's not about, all right, what are we building today? It's about where are we going tomorrow. And if they're all on that journey, like you said, they're engaging with the technology you're building, they're engaging with the thought and the people that you're working with. That's a very big competitive advantage that you're establishing if you continue going down that path. Exciting stuff.
So I think it's obviously unclear about where exactly what sort of exact shape a company like Aurecon would take, but I think we're investing in the right places.
Sounds like it.
Investing in the technology, investing in the capabilities, investing in the different ways of thinking, investing in more commercial acumen, different skills in terms of IP and different legal considerations. These sort of things will all help us actually build a platform for whatever might come.
I think like what you said there, being unclear is probably a good place to be if you move towards a learning environment. And clearly made that shift to let's learn, evolve and grow as a business. In even short-term thinking, how does that impact long-term thinking? So if you're unclear, that's a good thing. So everyone out there that's unclear, listening here on this, that's okay. But you need that learning mindset. Otherwise, you're going to be unclear forever and you're going to be stuck. So
you take measures to figure things out.
Yes, exactly.
But you're never going to be 100% clear on anything.
Exactly. I think as you said before, being complacent is the risk. And waiting to see. It's fine to be unclear, but you still need to be taking action,
doing something to move you in the right direction.
Because by doing, you're learning. And that's
very, very good.
That's where the value is.
Probably a good takeaway for everyone that's out there. If you haven't actually done anything from a digital or been really invested in your processes, take a step back and just look at how you can learn. Maybe dip your toe in the water, look at a little project that is about improving or defining something and just take it as a learning experience and evolve from there. It's like anything, we don't know what we don't know until we dip our toe in the water and actually give something a go. So just on that, we deal with obviously some corporate businesses, but then some mid-tier, some smaller type guys. Some are more agile than others. When you're jumping into this sort of realm, what are some key takeaways, obviously, from this conversation that we can tip home into some people as to say, okay, here's a good place to start if you haven't done much in this vein yet?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because the large corporates are obviously very different to the small. We've got far more, I guess, resources available to be able to start to experiment. So obviously, smaller players need to be a little bit more frugal, I guess, or a little bit more direct. But I think most definitely, what is highly important is to make sure that you constantly have a finger on the pulse. I think if you are just staying internal, just focused on business as usual, you aren't speaking to your customers, you aren't going out to conferences, to events, you aren't reading what is coming and how your industry is potentially transforming. I think that's when there's significant risk. I think there's a lot that we can all do for little to no cost, which is just have conversations, go out, speak to people in different industries, look at adjacent industries as well, look at what's happening overseas. Are there certain trends that you can start to see that are emerging that actually might translate into your particular industry?
It's a good tip for everyone. That's start educating yourself really. Because we all need to be learning, and that's that learning mindset again. If you're not focusing on what's going on,
and I think if you do have some some resources, then there's a lot you can do with quite low tech solutions. A website designed in the right way can totally change a business practice or generate a whole new line of revenue, whatever it might be.
Not everything has to be custom made.
No,
So
not these
tools
days.
you can use everywhere to leverage. Even if you use 10 of them to do the one thing, as long as they're put together the right way, it'll make a difference.
Exactly. So, it could be around just creating dashboards to give you better insight into your business processes. Could be a new website to connect with a client and a customer in a different way. That's giving you a type of insight that you never had before. These things are relatively quick, easy, relatively cheap ways of dipping your toe in the water, as you say. But can be really powerful, and it will unlock what is potentially next. Give you an insight into, okay, well, actually, that's given me a brand new idea. We can move in this direction.
So basically, get out there, educate yourself, talk to your customers, and evolve with them, and evolve your business from there. So,
exactly.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. Been awesome.
Oh, good. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's been really, really good, and good insights there. So yeah, if you want to check out Aurecon, have a look at them. I think it's aurecon.com.au or it's
Aurecon Group.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
aurecongroup.com.
Yep.
Check them out. See what they're doing. It's all these innovating stuff they're doing across even all facets of their business, not just in digital. So they're all different facets in HR and the type of things they do there across all their silos. So have a look at them. Check him out. And
If you want to have a look at Stuart, we'll put his LinkedIn profile on
we'll share that
the
out
recording as well.
so
So have a look at that and you can see what he does in a bit more detail there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No,
Thanks,
a
guys.
lot. Appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks.
Cheers, mate.